about social cues that kids can use to figure out, what words refer to. Turns out that speakers will often look at the novel thing they're talking about, right? So kids can assume that the new word that they hear probably refers to the object of the speaker's gaze. So here, look at the Siamese with that look at the frame, right? But then Siamese might be a new word, right? But the adult, the speaker, is looking at this object which the child maybe knew as kitty. And so the child says, oh, well, okay, you're looking there. You're referring to this thing. Well, it must be because this thing is somehow a Siamese. And by 18 months, children use this kind of social cue, though the ability to successfully use the gaze develops fully over the first 5 years. And pointing is an even better cue about the intended referent. That's super helpful and super easy to follow instead of just eye gaze, of course. So if someone's pointing at the Siamese, then we're pretty sure that that's what they're talking about. But only 15% of parental utterances, at least in that particular study that looked at a swath of them, were accompanied by referential gestures like pointing. So again, it's a really helpful cue, but it definitely does not occur all the time. But it's really helpful when it does. And in general, it seems that speaker social cues are important for kids as they reason about what words could possibly refer to. So in fact, 4 and 5-year-olds who are pretty well developed, right, on the language track, they'll override mutual exclusivity, like in this case right here, when a speaker is pointing and having their gaze alternate between the child and the object, right? So if the child knows this is kitty, look at the Siamese, and the person's looking at it, and the person's pointing at it, and they're like, okay, that must be a Siamese. But interestingly, they won't do that if these social cues aren't present. They're like, no, I think you're talking about something else, right? So even at 4 and 5, these social cues can really help a child figure out when you have instances of overlapping meaning, like in this case again, Siamese referring to this creature and kitty referring to the same creature, because it's a different level of specificity. And 4 and 5-year-olds are like, I don't know, but if you're pointing and looking at the thing, they're like, all right, I guess, right? So it's important. These social cues are important and can be really helpful. Something else that can be useful is to look at the things that your mama's holding. So children tend to pay attention to things that are in their mother's hands, and this simple attentional bias can often lead them to choose items that have recently been manipulated or offered or touched, right? And help focus their attention on things that are likely to be salient, that their mom is likely to be talking about.